Welcome to another GoldMine 101, our regular series of short presentations giving you hints and tips for getting the most out of GoldMine CRM. And this morning, I'm going to cover the SQL Query Builder in GoldMine. It sort of follows on from our recent sessions on using GoldMine filters, GoldMine groups for building up lists in GoldMine, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to use the very straightforward filtering feature, but the SQL query is another level of sophistication in trying to find literally any information in the GoldMine CRM system. So, good morning. My name is Tim Wilmot, and my company, Wizard Systems, we're a specialist CRM system supplier who help small and medium-sized organizations improve their sales productivity, marketing, and customer service through the use of systems like GoldMine. Now, this presentation will be fairly short, about 10 minutes or so in duration, just really an overview of the SQL Query Build feature, not meant to be in-depth training. There's a lot to. It's a very powerful capability within GoldMine, this SQL query thing. And my company, Wizard Systems, we offer many extensive training options if you want to explore those with us. Now, the audio part of this presentation is one way only. If you've got any questions, please type those into the question box on your meeting control panel, and I'll do my best to answer those at the end. Also, at the end, I'll give you an update on any GoldMine product news for you, just to keep you in the loop. And the call is being recorded. After the presentation, you will get an email from our system with a link to recording. You can play back whenever you want to, and we'll most likely pop it up on our YouTube channel as well. Okay, so let's get started. Quick mention about Wizard Systems, leading supplier of GoldMine and CRM systems, mainly in the UK, but we supply systems all over the place, and we provide any kind of service around GoldMine, upgrades, implementation, popular GoldMine add-ons to extend the solution even further, for example, in quoting, extensive training, any kind of training you want to. Obviously, that's online at the moment. We're all working from home. We're still currently in lockdown, or just in England, sort of coming out of lockdown gradually. But primarily our training is online, and our help desk support as well. Business as usual, we're working from home, but our support service is exactly the same as it was before. Okay, so let's get into the SQL Query Builder then. So, as I said, filters and groups should satisfy you most of the time as regards creating a list of contacts with some common criteria. But the SQL query feature, and remember GoldMine is built on SQL. Lurking below GoldMine is an SQL database, a nice secure database, the Microsoft SQL system. And we use SQL query, the SQL query syntax to interrogate that system and literally drag up any kind of data information in GoldMine. So to access SQL queries from your tools menu, you've got SQL query there, and you have this nasty white box. Don't get phased with this. This is where there's basically 3 elements to what we're seeing here. In the top line there, that's where you've got a drop-down list of previously created SQL queries, saved queries that you can call on there before. Next box down where my cursor is now, that's where you can, if you're knowledgeable about SQL syntax, you can start typing away merrily there, type in your select statement, and then click on the query button on the right-hand side. And then in the last big box below, that's where you're going to see columns, the results of the information you're querying. All right, so those are the 3 elements there. But most of us know nothing about SQL. So GoldMine gives you a nifty little build feature, basically a wizard that will take you through step by step building up a sophisticated SQL query that the SQL thing understands. So let me just take you through an example of an SQL query build process. So I just clicked on that build button there, and we're presented with the lookup wizard. Just confirming exactly what I said, we're going to be building up a contact list based on the information that we select. What information can we select? Well, pretty much anything in GoldMine. Obviously, there at the top, there's contact information. But to be honest with you, you're more likely to use a filter or group for finding that information. What is of interest, though, is further down below that, the other elements of GoldMine. When we're looking at GoldMine, when we're looking at GoldMine records, there's an amalgamation of different information stored in different tables, a bit like a sort of jigsaw of different pieces. And we look at it as one record, but actually deep down in the GoldMine system, all that data is stored in separate areas. Your outstanding pending activities in one area, your history activities in another area, the emails you've sent or received, they're in another area. Your opportunities, if you're using GoldMine for tracking sales opportunities, that's in another area. And this query will allow us to interrogate and build a list, build a contact list, essentially a contact list, based on any of that information. So we could look at pending, outstanding activities, completed activities, something in notes, emails you've sent, emails received, opportunities, projects, and if you're using GoldMine for service tracking, there we are, we've got cases there. So let me take you through an example, and this is pretty similar. The process is going to be similar for the other types of records you could be searching through. But I'm going to select pending activities here. And we just keep clicking next, just to go through this wizard step by step. So next. Right, now, so which user do you want to find? So you could select multiple users here. I'm just going to select one, a user from my drop-down list. I could select groups of users, well, of course, to bring in any number of activities of multiple users. What activity type do I want to choose or search through? Well, here are the key activity types that you've got in GoldMine: calls, next actions, appointments or meetings, forecast sales, and some of the other miscellaneous types of activities. So I'm going to select calls for this one. I could then select a date range. I could select an activity code. An activity code in GoldMine, we've selected the activity type of call, but maybe in your organization, you've got different types of phone calls, maybe new inquiries, keep in touch calls, following up the quotation, chasing on a project. You might want, you don't have to, but you might have categorized those calls into different sort of subtypes, if you like. And typically you would give each call type a three-letter code, a logical three-letter code. So you could select that there. We could also and/or select a reference. This is the subject of the phone call, the reference, the key bit of information about that phone call. Maybe I just want to find all of the phone calls that Jan has done, that are outstanding for Jan, that contains the word follow, for example. So in this drop-down list of operators there, I'm going to select contains, and then in lowercase or uppercase, doesn't matter, typing in the word follow. That's the word I want to follow within the reference field. Click OK. Click Next now. In GoldMine, your activities are normally linked to a contact. They may be unlinked. You may have an activity that's nothing to do with a customer record So there may be examples of phone calls and emails that aren't linked, they aren't associated with a particular customer. So you can select unlinked there. I'm going to go for linked activities. So I'm going to be creating a contact list eventually of all of the these phone calls associated with a contact. You can then go to another level of search criteria. There's a little checkbox here, specify contact match options. This is where we can actually really go to town on additional information we want to select for this. So maybe I want to find these phone calls, but only for customers in this market sector or customers in a certain geographical area, for example. There could also be detail records and additional contacts as well. Let me just go back. I'll just uncheck that for now, but a further level of interrogation there with that specifying the contact match options. Click next. There is, for the technical, there is my select statement. All right, it's just, you can look at that and you can actually try to sort of make sense of it. It is fairly logical, and it's just really saying to SQL, I'm selecting this information from the GoldMine database, and the cal, that's the pending, that's the pending area where all these activities are, and there's the condition there following that as well. I could then activate this SQL statement for then creating a group, for using this query. So if I select finish, it's very, very fast, normally in a second or two. So it's found 96 records. There they all are there. You don't need to worry too much about the columns of information here. They relate to those activities, but we can scroll along with that bottom bar there and we can see contact data, and there we are. There's that follow-up in the reference. That's the actual field of the pending activities. There's the follow-up that I'm finding. Now, if I want to save this, well, I've got a save button up here, but maybe I want to save it as a group. Or if you tuned into our group building webinar last week, I explained some of the benefits of using groups and the integration with some mailing tools. So this is where you can now build a group. We can give it a name. Let's call it Jan Calls. Click OK. What's the criteria for building the group? Well, I've just done an SQL query. Thank you. I will select that. Click next. I could then select, we're nearly there. I could then select a sort. What sort order do you want this information in? A further reference there, a further filter expression. Click next. Click finish, and job done. There are my 96 records. There's my group created. I can then go off and do any kind of group you want. So there we are. Very simply, the SQL Query Build wizard. You can't do any damage with it. It is just interrogating the GoldMine system. It's not amending any of the data. It's a very sophisticated tool. Not many other CRM applications have that level of capability to build up a sophisticated query like that without any programming required. Yes, we do have the SQL query box in there, and some of you listening, watching this may know the SQL query syntax. You'll have the confidence of typing anything into that white box there, and well, just click on query and it's either going to produce a result or it's not. And these SQL queries, once you save them, you can then have a drop down list here, so you can actually then use them time and time again. And there they all are there. There's an example of some there that I created before. So a great way of finding any information in GoldMine. You don't need to know anything about SQL, but you just need to have some kind of understanding of the terminology GoldMine uses for the information, whatever information you want to find, whether it's a pending activity, history, email, opportunities, projects, or cases. So, as we now do on our regular weekly sessions on 101, I'm quite happy to answer any questions you've got about this feature here. So, question from Ruben. Can it build a group based on text in an incoming email? So if that text, Ruben, is in the subject of an email, then yes, no problem at all. You could do in the group building wizard, it will actually prompt you. You actually prompt you for the text you want to find and the contains and so on. So if it's in the message body, then you'll need to use the email center in GoldMine. Email center in GoldMine, and that's where you see all of your emails that are stored in the GoldMine system, and that's where you can actually really go to town. Might cover that actually on another session. The email search features of GoldMine, they're pretty good, comparable to any other email system. Honestly, very good. So hopefully that answers your question, Ruben. Jennifer, what about building on users who have left the company? When you remove, normally when you remove a user from the GoldMine system, you are removing their login capability, but the things that they've created are still in the GoldMine database. You wouldn't remove those. So activities they've done are still in the GoldMine system. When I went through the GoldMine build, when I went through that lookup wizard, and I had a drop-down list of usernames, if you've removed the user, it won't appear in there. But I suppose what you could do is just select any user, and then when you get to the last screen, which shows you the actual SQL, the SQL query, in that SQL syntax, there was an edit button there. So you could click into that query, and where it says Fred, that there'll be the user that you selected in uppercase. So let's say it was Fred, but you want to find activities for Mary that left. Just overtype it and then just query on that. So that should be a way of doing that if you have removed them from your GoldMine system. Question from Marie. Do you have to click on save on this query? Yes, if you want to save it. If you don't want to save it, doesn't matter. Just go off. But yes, if you think you want to save it, if you think you want to use it again, so you have to query it to kind of refresh it, Marie, or maybe you've got a colleague who wants to use this query as well. You want to share it. So yes, you would just save that. Ashley, can SQL delete or cause major changes, or is it's only a search function, Ashley? No danger of damage. However, the SQL database behind that does have the capability to change records, and that would only be, I mentioned at the start, SQL is Microsoft's standard database. It is very, very secure. So there's a login to GoldMine, as you know, and there's a separate login to SQL. Within SQL, within your SQL system, you will have a pecking order of different users. You will have an administrator, and only they can then carry out more fundamental SQL queries that could affect your data and do some really clever things. But that's not in GoldMine. Okay, so GoldMine is just really giving you some safe functions to use. Question from Dale. When running an SQL, I see error when connecting to the database with the read-only user. I have set this up correctly according to GoldMine's install manual. Any suggestions? Question mark. I don't know rapidly the answer to your question, Dale. I just assume it's some kind of minor setup thing there. I'll have our support reach out to you after this call, and we'll get you sorted. No problem. Okay, I don't think there's any more questions coming through. If any late ones come through, I'll answer those separately via email. So just to keep you in the loop with GoldMine, of course, we're all working online at the moment. If you do have any GoldMine training requirements, they will be delivered online. We've got 2 training rooms in our Bristol office. They actually, one of them is actually quite a big room, so we can observe social distancing as and when we can do offline training, when we can invite our customers back into our offices, so we can space people out. We've got plenty of space there. But at the moment, we're all online as of mid-May 2020. Latest release of GoldMine, 2019.1, 2020.1 is due out soon. As soon as it comes out, we'll alert the GoldMine community on our blog, on our site, via our 101 sessions, Twitter. There's numerous ways in which we promote that information. What's coming up in the next version? Well, primarily it's going to be improving the email security and the 2-step authentication. So there's going to be a lot more security built into email if you're using GoldMine for email. So that's the end of our session this morning, 101. Just a brief dive into the SQL Query Build wizard, the lookup wizard. Hopefully you found that of interest. So you've never got that lost feeling with GoldMine. We've now covered on our 101 sessions filters, groups, and the SQL query. Never going to have that lost feeling with GoldMine. Any information in GoldMine, here we'll find it. Don't worry. So any suggestions for future topics, please email me, tim@wizard-systems.com. There's other ways of connecting with us. So I did mention that this presentation will be on YouTube. If you're listening to this on YouTube, please contact us for any information about GoldMine or services around GoldMine, or indeed some of the other systems that we supply. We're not just GoldMine only. If you do want to find or do a search for other videos that we've done, our YouTube channel is, well, just do a search in YouTube for Wizard Systems. I don't think there's many Wizard Systems out there. So search for Wizard Systems and you'll hit our channel, and there's a GoldMine playlist up there. So you can, if you're bored, you can while away your time and flick through, browse through all the different GoldMine videos we've done there over the years. So thanks very much for your time. Appreciate it, those listening in live, and thanks very much for those that asked those questions. Dale, we'll get back to you. I think there's a few other late questions that have come in. We'll answer those separately via email there. Thanks very much indeed for your time. Tom, I saw your question. I will get back to you. Thanks very much for your time, and catch up with you next week for another free training session. Thank you. Bye-bye.